I know there might be some people that have heard me say, okay, you can make as much money in the military in a year as you do in real estate in 1 month. But what that doesn't entail is the months where you make nothing, the months where you walk away with zero. And then what are you doing? Do you have savings? Do you have the ability to still afford your lifestyle if you aren't making anything in real estate? I talked in the beginning of this call about discipline, about consistency. And what I did is I just applied that. And I said, I want to get leads by doing open houses and by educating people. That is how I want to get my leads.
Welcome back to the channel. This one specifically, this is for all my military people out there. If you're watching, your active duty military, any branch whatsoever, we wanted to record this for you. And we got Ian Razor, my partner, back on the channel here. You might have seen him recently on an interview we did. But what we're going to dive into right here is how to go from active duty military to full-time real estate, and to do it successfully right out the gate, just like Ian did his first few months. He started full-time active duty military, working well beyond that 40-hour work week, and simultaneously working full-time in real estate. So, I mean, that might sound crazy, but we're going to dive into it and better understand. And I think a lot of you, like for me, the first thing comes to mind is, was it worth it? Is it worth it? I'll let Ian speak more to that. But Ian, thank you for taking the time to come back here and share with the viewers here, man.
Oh, I love it, man. I mean, my value proposition is educating the servicemen and women, and realistically, what's going to lead to the greatest opportunity after the military, right? I think that's what we all think of, because whether you do 4 years or 20 years, you are going to get out of the military at some point, right? It's going to happen. So the military, regardless in any way you look at it, whether it's a temporary thing or a career, it is a stepping stone that is supposed to lead to your next journey in life. And we're going to talk a little bit about, my journey from the military, from the active duty Air Force into real estate full time, and not only getting into real estate, but becoming successful in this industry, which is very hard to do. So when it comes down to it, the military, no matter what branch you guys are in, whether it's Air Force, Marines, Army, Space Force, Navy, Coast Guard, we all have a lot of opportunity to network and really just kind of expand our ability to communicate. I think a lot of us do naturally just kind of grow up a little bit more introverted nowadays, just because of the way everything is. But the military kind of forces you to get into an extroverted type of energy, right? Where you have to schedule your own appointments. You have to communicate with the people that you're working with, because a lot of times our mission is very critical to what is going on in the world, whether it's wartime, peacetime. We're preparing, we're constantly just working at our duty station to prepare to deploy. And so when it comes down to it, you're getting a lot of good communication with people, and you're building relationships, whether you know it or not, right? We're all going through the suck. That's why the common expression in the military is embrace the suck. And we all have that in common. No matter what branch you guys are in, whether it is Air Force or whether it's the Army or Marine Corps, we all have a lot of similar jobs, but a little bit different experiences, right, with what we go through. So when it comes down to being successful in real estate and coming from the military, it's utilizing those relationships. It's building on those relationships, because they can directly lead to how successful you are going to be. And the other big thing that I like to talk about is the discipline that you get from the military. And that's kind of the theme I'm going to go with, is the things you can take away from the military to apply into real estate and how it's going to factor into real estate. And so we talked about building relationships, becoming a little bit more extroverted by force, and then the discipline, right? We have to be at PT at a certain time. We got to be at work at a certain time. We got to do, we have all of these standards and all of these things that we have to uphold, no matter who you are or what you want to do. Otherwise, you are going to get kicked out of the military, essentially. But with that being said, that discipline, that standard, you can carry that with you for the remainder of your life. And in real estate, we are our own boss, right? You are self-employed. You don't have a boss. That's why a lot of people come up to me from the military and go, man, I want to do what you do, and I want to get into real estate because I don't want to work for anybody anymore. And then I tell people, and I go, that's great. And I love working for myself. I can't see myself ever working for a boss again. But at the same time, you don't have somebody that's telling you what to do every single moment of every single day. You don't have somebody that says you can do this, this, and this, and you can't do this. In real estate, it is up to you and what you want to do. And so you need that discipline in order to transfer over to real estate to say, I know what I have to do to go generate leads, how to build an organic business. And every single day, no matter how I feel, no matter how tired I am, no matter how much I worked the day before, I'm going to get up and get it done. The difference is that in the military, we have a salary. We are set. When I was an E5, my last year in South Carolina, I made $42,000 that year. In my first year in real estate, I made that in 1 month. And I say that not to brag, right, for those of you guys that are watching, but to show you that it is possible. You can make your military salary in 1 month in real estate, and you can do it in a very fast way. Now, granted, everyone's journey is different, but you have the opportunity. And that's what's great about real estate, because in the military, you can work as hard as you want. There were weeks where we worked 80 hours a week, and I would walk home with the same paycheck on other weeks during COVID, where we would work 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week. And that's the pros and cons of a salary position, is sometimes you work less and sometimes you work more, but that stuff balances out. But we all know in the military, especially for my engineers, maintainers, infantry guys, military police, we work more than 40 hours a week almost every single week. So the pay is not worth it, right? We join the military for the benefits that we have access to, not necessarily the pay. But overall, if you take that opportunity and you say, okay, well, I can make my military salary in a year, then what's stopping you from getting it? It's the discipline and consistency. It's the one thing I see from real estate agents that they don't have, but we have it in the military. Whether you think you have it or not, you have it in the military. And it's going to transition. And when you guys do get out of the military, you are going to recognize it. You are going to notice that people don't have discipline. The everyday civilian doesn't have the same discipline that you do, even if you think you slack in a lot of areas. You are just on a different tier. And you can apply that to being an entrepreneur and being in real estate and getting to the point where you can make your military salary in 1 month. One of the biggest things that I know I told myself when I first got started is, like Tyler kind of mentioned, right? I was active duty Air Force. I got my real estate license while I was still active duty. So my first 4 months of my real estate career, I was still active duty. So basically I was going to work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., right? That includes PT, mandatory meetings, CBTs, all of these things that we have to do. I was staying till 6 p.m. After work, I would go home, shower, get changed, because I was a civil engineer. So I was working outside all day long, pouring concrete, working with K-12 saws. Maybe I could send a picture to Tyler so he could put it on the screen and show what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. But I was not in the Air Force, in the chair force, I should say, right? I was in the hardworking part of the Air Force. So I was working outside every single day with a farmer's tan that still has not gone away to this day. And so I took that hard work and I said, okay, well, I'm getting off at 6 o'clock. What am I going to do to build my real estate business? Because I know the military isn't for me long-term. And for some of you guys that are watching this, if you are watching this video, and if you clicked on this video, it's probably hitting you that the military is not the long-term solution for you. But it's like I said in the beginning as well, even if it is a long-term 20-year solution, what are you doing after 20 years? The pension isn't enough to really live off of. You need pension and VA disability. And there have been talks about that stuff going away as a combined entitlement. And so you have to find a way to say, okay, I'm going to do this after the military to make ends meet or to provide a better life for myself and my family. Because if you stay in 20 years, most likely you're married, you have kids, you have people you have to provide for. So what are you going to do after the military? I thought about it from each and every single way, where I did 8.5 years and I decided that was it. I was done. Once I got started in real estate, I wanted to make that full commitment to go in. And I would advise you guys to do the same thing, where you can make the full commitment and dive all the way in to experience it firsthand. As we have discipline and consistency in the military, the one thing that we do have in the military that you don't have in real estate is a stable paycheck. It's stable income. Besides the government shutdowns, I like how we're making this during the one time in the past 10 years the military hasn't been paid. They got the mid paycheck, but they're not going to get the end of the month if the government stays shut down, so they have to get it figured out. But with that being said, there's a guaranteed paycheck. Most of the time, 99% of the time, there's a guaranteed paycheck. First and 15th, money hits your bank account. In real estate, that doesn't exist. It doesn't. So I know there might be some people that have heard me say, okay, you can make as much money in the military in a year as you do in real estate in 1 month. But what that doesn't entail is the months where you make nothing, the months where you walk away with zero. And then what are you doing? Do you have savings? Do you have the ability to still afford your lifestyle if you aren't making anything in real estate? And all of these thoughts went through my mind. And the one biggest thing that kept me going forward is the two words I hate the most out of just any words in the English language is complacency and fear. And those two things were the things that were running around my mind. It was, if I stay in the military and I re-enlist, and they really wanted me to re-enlist, they weren't going to offer me a bonus because they didn't have it in the funding, but they said, we really want you. We need your work ethic. We need you to lead our troops. And I was like, I can't do it because I'm not getting paid enough. I don't have the opportunity that I can have outside of the military. But then there's the fear that creeps into your mind because you are complacent. You are comfortable because you have a guaranteed paycheck, even though it's not as much as we would like. It's a guaranteed paycheck, which is more than what most people in this country can currently say they have. But that fear that started running through my mind started turning into almost like a confidence of I'm going to dive all the way in and I'm not going to fail at this. I had just a gut feeling that I was going to be very successful at this real estate thing. And for some of you guys that clicked on this video, especially if you've watched it up to this point and watching me rant on this, is you have that same drive. You have the same drive to be the outlier. And I just made a video on TikTok talking about this, that you can be the outlier for your family. A lot of us didn't grow up with much. Granted, if you join the military, your family probably isn't the wealthiest family in the world. That's why a lot of us joined. It's for the benefits, for the opportunity to go to school for free, to get free healthcare, to have access to the VA loan to buy a house because most of our families could never think of buying a house. These are the reasons why we joined the military. And so if you're thinking about all of those different reasons and you're going, okay, this is why I joined, is to have that stability. And I am thinking about getting into a career field where it's not stable. There's opportunity, but it's not stable. And like I said, these thoughts were going through my mind, and even my wife, she looked at me and she goes, are you sure that you want to get into this? There is no guaranteed paycheck. If you don't do well, we are going to have to live off my military paycheck. And that's two people living on one paycheck, which in the military is definitely not enough to really do much, right? And so I had that confidence to go forward and say, I want to get this done. And I was going to do it no matter what it took. And I dove in full force. Now, something that you guys have access to that I never had access to because my leadership declined me is a program called SkillBridge. And this is something that me and Tyler founded together. It's called AMF, Alpha Mike Foxtrot, otherwise known as Adios Mother to the military, right? It's you saying goodbye, but it's you getting into an opportunity that can provide you with so much more. And so what SkillBridge is, for those of you guys who don't know, it allows you to get 120 days off of your active duty contract to intern or OJT with an outside company or corporation in a field that you want to go into. And so with that being said, we have a real estate SkillBridge program that is called AMF. And you get the training from us specifically every single week, multiple times a week, where you are able to pick our brains. And I'm a top producing agent. I just looked in our company that we are a part of. There are, I think, 87,000 agents. I'm in the top 350 of them in terms of volume and almost in the top 100 in terms of sides closed in the entire company. You're going to get access from someone who produces and closes 5 deals a month at the minimum. And then you have Tyler, who is a great team builder. If you guys are on his YouTube channel, you've probably seen his videos and you know what he teaches and what the value he has to offer. And so you're getting a valuable piece of information from both of us every single week that's going to help prepare you for the next step of going from the military to full-time real estate. And so I'd highly recommend that you guys apply for SkillBridge. Your leadership should hopefully approve you guys. If they don't, obviously, that's not the end of the world. It wouldn't say to give up on your dreams of getting into real estate. You could just follow the path that I took. And that's dedicating yourself. Every hour that you are off of work and you are not sleeping is geared towards real estate. It's geared towards real estate because in SkillBridge, the military pays you to learn from us. The military is paying you while you're studying for your real estate exam. The military is paying you to sit on Zoom calls with us and learn from us. That's an incredible opportunity. But even if you don't have access to that opportunity, you can still do what I did and say, I get off work at 6 o'clock. I'm going to go to the gym, and then I'm going to go hang out and watch Ian and Tyler talk about real estate. I'm going to go and watch these social media videos. I'm going to learn everything I can. I'm going to progress through my real estate course. That way, as soon as I get out of the military, I'm able to hit the ground running full time and get to the point where I can be successful. And I don't know if you had any questions, Tyler, that you had come up with that you think might help.
Yeah, I think that's really insightful as far as the mindset that it takes to really make this work and assure that it's, a path forward that has the opportunity to actually see the growth and progress and what people hope for getting into things. And, it does seem like, coming from a world where, you're getting paid every 2 weeks for the most part, to where like it's completely up in the air when you're going to get paid, even for the first time, and let alone time and time again. I feel like that's got to be the hardest part for most people. I don't know if everyone's wired for it at the end of the day. Maybe there is kind of an element where you've got to be, okay with like letting go of that guaranteed and like leaning into, believing in yourself and the fact that you, if kind of, if you unrestrain yourself from, having it as a limitation, that if you lean into that the right way, that you can build something that would be worthwhile, just like you have. So I'd be curious to know, like, what would you say, like, so we got the SkillBridge, right? If they can get enrolled in that program, that's going to be a great first step forward while serving active duty to start moving in this direction. Beyond that, though, what else would you suggest doing if someone's if they know they want to pursue this thing in real estate? Like, what would be other steps that they can take to really start to move in that direction?
So, I think the first thing is educating yourself, right? I think ultimately, even if you want to get into real estate, whether you get accepted into SkillBridge or not, there is a lot of information out there, like this YouTube video, like many YouTube videos, like a lot of TikTok videos. It's learning about the benefits that you have access to first and foremost. And with us military guys, right, we have TSP, we have TA, we have the GI Bill, and more importantly, we have the VA loan. That directly correlates with real estate. And then for those of you guys, by the way, I know I kind of brought this up, I would not use your GI Bill to pay for your real estate course. The real estate course in most cities is on an average of $300 to $400, maybe $500 in certain states with the discount codes that we have to offer. But with that being said, I get that question all the time. No, I would not tap in your GI Bill to pay for a $400 course. To be completely honest, if you don't have the $400 to put into the course, you need to save up before getting into real estate, because getting into real estate is not cheap. There are a lot of fees that go into it when you first get started with everything. But I would say if you are wanting to get into real estate, even if you're not at the point of getting into SkillBridge, you can still take that real estate course. Now, granted, it depends, because where you are in your military career can determine what state you want to get licensed in, right? Because you could be stationed in South Carolina and then get orders a year later to go to Arkansas, to go to Texas. And then if you have your real estate license in South Carolina, those states don't have reciprocity. So you would have to retake, especially Texas, you had to retake the whole exam again and go through the process. So I would just say, until you get to the point where you know you are going to separate and you're going to be in one location, that you know you're going to be in that location 100%, I would say to just educate yourself on the different types of loans, on why you are getting into real estate in the first place. I know I talked a lot about the financial incentive of it, but the greater case of real estate is the fact that you have the opportunity to not only change your life, but to change other people's lives, right? We are not real estate salesmen. That when you take your real estate course, it's going to say real estate salesperson. Real estate is the furthest thing from sales that I can possibly think of, because I'm not selling real estate. I'm educating people on the process of buying a house, and in turn, they are building their net worth and passing on generational wealth to their children if we do it the right way. And that's the important thing. It's the right way. It's saying, okay, why are you buying a house? Why are you using your VA loan? Is it to build a rental portfolio? Because we can build a rental portfolio with our VA loan, right? We can get into real estate investing with our VA loan by buying quadplexes. We can build quadplexes. We can renovate quadplexes, all with nothing down. And so there's a lot that we have access to that a lot of your brothers and sisters in the military don't know about. And so that's the key thing. And even before I got my license, and I told Tyler this, I was doing financial literacy seminars with my squadron and with my shop and with my unit. I was basically saying, hey guys, at 3:15, you get to get out of work 45 minutes early and listen to me talk about finances. And that was before I had my license. I was just educating. And in educating others, I became more educated myself. Because in doing that research and teaching, that information stuck with me. And so when it came down to investing in stocks, diversifying your income, investing into real estate, how to buy an investment property, once you have enough equity, what do? You don't sell the property, you take out a HELOC and you use that HELOC as tax-free money to go buy more property. Then you turn 1 into 2. Then you turn 2 into 4. And that's how you build generational wealth over time. So even in me just telling you guys that, that's the stuff that you can start learning now and pulling from. And then once you get to the point where you go, I love this, I want to do this on a grand, bigger scale, that's when you could get licensed in the state that you know you're going to be in. Whether you get SkillBridge or not, that does not matter. Granted, if you get SkillBridge, it's an incredible opportunity. And if you guys are interested, obviously you guys can reach out to me. You can reach out to Tyler. He'll drop the links in the description. But overall, even if you don't get into SkillBridge, you can still do the same thing that I did and educate others with the intention of helping them build generational wealth. And in turn, you are going to build generational wealth as a result, because as you're teaching others, you're going to be teaching yourself. And then, I don't know about you guys, I don't like feeling like an imposter or a phony. So I'm not going to tell people, oh, go invest and go do this, and then not do it myself. So then I'm going to be doing it. They're going to be doing it. We are all learning together. And a lot of those guys that I ended up teaching financial literacy to back in 2021 have like 20x their portfolios. They have all just invested in stocks, right? And this is a whole different thing, but invested in stocks that they know of, because that's what I did. I did the basic that said invest into Apple. You guys have an iPhone, invest into Apple. Look at the Apple return in the past 4 years. Look at the SPY the last 4 years. And a lot of these guys reach out to me daily, and one of them just liquidated their whole portfolio to buy an investment property. So he used his VA loan, bought a house, and then bought an investment property where he's making $400 passively after all the expenses. And that's changed his family's life, where he has a property he knows he's going to pass on to his kids. And that's the power of what we have access to. So even if you want to get started in this, whether you do SkillBridge or not, whether you're at the end of your career or the beginning or the middle, you have opportunity.
That's a really great point, is really just becoming the expert and diving in and to the point where you can actually teach people how to use their benefits and how to position themselves to own real estate using those benefits that you're not necessarily taught in the military. Now, obviously, a key part of successfully making the transition is building that momentum, getting your first few deals closed and parlaying that into more deals. So was it kind of what you already shared as far as just diving in, getting to know the market, getting to and being able to teach people all about it? Was that like the most pivotal thing? Or on top of that, like what steps did you take to get your, like thinking back to your first few deals, what actions would you say you took to build that initial momentum? And then how did you parlay that initial momentum into the months that followed that, where you started closing deals more regularly?
Yeah, so overall, it did start from before I got my license, right? Where I told you guys that I was educating other people, and in turn, I was educating myself. And in that process, I became addicted, and I still am to this day. You guys can tell by the way I talk about it. I'm on my social media pages, and I'm talking about it with the same passion because I'm addicted to it. And when you get addicted to this, it's a good thing to get addicted to, right? It's better than drugs. It's better than alcohol. It's better than anything you could possibly think. Because as you get addicted to learning information, and then you get addicted to teaching it, and then you get addicted to educating others, because when they come up to you and they go, man, you changed my life when you taught me this 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 months ago, whatever it may be. And then in terms of leading that built my confidence, and that built my need to learn as much as I could. That way I could change more lives. And with my real estate license, I knew I'd be able to do that on a greater, bigger scale. And so with that being said, I got my real estate license in September of 2021, September 9th, 2021. And I got my first referral client. So a client that I'd gotten from the referral network from another agent, essentially got them, and I closed my first deal in October. I think it was October 22nd or 24th or something like that I closed my first deal. Now, granted, like we talked about, everyone's journey is different. Some of you guys might get a client right away. Some of you guys might not. But even in me getting that client, it wasn't an accident, right? It wasn't an accident. It was me being active. It was me reaching out to that agent that needed somebody in my market. And I said, hey, I'm willing to help. I'm willing to dedicate all of my extra time, all of my free time, all of my knowledge, everything I have to this. All of my time goes to these clients. And she was on board with it, even though I was a brand new agent. And so I crushed it. I did a great job getting the deal done for them, got them a great deal. And thinking back at interest rates back then, man, it was like a 3.5%, which is crazy to think about. But overall, that built my confidence more to say, okay, I can do it. I've just proved to myself that I could do it. I proved to my family I could do it. And for those of you guys that are going from military to real estate, you're going to have a lot of fucking haters, man. You're going to have a lot of people hating. It is what it is. Like, our military community, as great as it can be, it's better when you're a veteran compared to when you're in. When you're active duty, people will not like to see you get out and do better than them because they have that word. What is it? Complacency. They're complacent with where they're at. And so if you get out and you take the risk, which is what getting out of the military is, it's a risk. And especially getting into real estate, that's more of a risk. And you successfully cash in on that risk, then they start to respect it. And then they reach out to you for advice. Well, how did you do this? What did you do? And that's exactly what ended up happening. I closed my first deal. And after my first deal, I think after all the splits and taxes, I walked away with around $7,000. That was 2 months of my military pay in one deal. That was able to pay off my credit cards and get me ahead for the first time in years that I was able to get ahead, right? Then all of a sudden I got my second deal another 2 months later, and then my third deal another month after that. So my first 6 months as a real estate agent, 4 months of those I was active duty. I closed 4 deals. I took that momentum and I just applied what I already knew I needed to do. I talked in the beginning of this call about discipline, about consistency. And what I did is I just applied that. And I said, I want to get leads by doing open houses and by educating people. That is how I want to get my leads. And overall, I started talking to everybody I possibly knew on social media, anyone I was stationed with, everybody I was currently stationed with. And I said, you need to get into real estate. And they would say, what do you mean? And I say, you need to invest. You need to use your VA loan. It's the most powerful wealth building tool in the entire country. And here's why. And then I would go through it with them line after line after line. And they would go, I didn't know that. I thought I could only use the VA loan one time. Oh, I thought the VA loan was capped at this. Oh, I thought I had to be an E5 to use my VA loan. There are so many misconceptions out there, which I'm still trying to tackle to this day when I have people come into my comments on TikTok and go, no, you can only use it one time. Really, man? You're talking to the expert and you're going to tell me what I can and can't do with it. But with that being said, that just means there are more people that need to be educated. I took that initial momentum and I started generating leads and talking to people and following up, which is something a lot of agents are terrible at, just follow up. And I would follow up with them and say, do you want to use your VA loan? It's the most powerful wealth building tool in the entire country. And they go, yes, how do I do that? And then so we would start talking and go into the process. And they would go, Ian, I like it. I love that you just explained this. You just changed my life with this information. But I need 4 to 5 months before I'm ready to buy. And they would tell this to me a month, like 30 days, 20 days after I got licensed. And so I put them in my back pocket. I had them in my follow-up system. And then I reached out to them at that point. And I said, hey, it's been 5 months. Have you considered using the VA loan? Do you have any questions I can answer for you? Because that's the thing too. And in that 5 months, I became so much more knowledgeable than I ever was at that point. Even now with where I am today, I think about where I was at that point. And I'm like, I didn't know anything. There's so much more that I've learned since then. And I'll probably look at myself in another year and think about that of myself today. And that's what real estate is. It's a growing journey. And so I followed up with those people. And then enough of those people started reaching out to me with me getting new leads and referrals from other agents and partnering with agents and going through and paying for advertisement and doing a bunch of different things. I diversified the same way I diversified my portfolio in terms of investing. I diversified the way I got leads and clients. And then it paid dividends because then my last 6 months of my first year in real estate, I closed 37 transactions. So I closed 4 my first 6 months, 37 my last 6 months. And that was through consistency and discipline and knowing that what I was doing was working and not expecting instant gratification, because I believe that patience is a trait that is being lost. It is lost. That's why a lot of people make YouTube or content videos and they post a couple and get maybe 10 views, 200 views on TikTok, and they stop. They give up, right? That's just preparing you for the future. And so overall, I didn't give up. I knew what I was doing was going to work, and I still believe that to this day. And that's how I parlayed my first deal into 41 my first year. And then every single year since then, I've grown and grown and grown. So it wasn't a fluke.
That was a really good tip you shared in terms of like just the follow-up. As simple as it sounds, it's very rare I see someone that doesn't miss the mark on it. And I was thinking as you were describing it, like, it's a simple question. Are you still like, so you have the timeline, you're reaching out, and you just ask them if they're still thinking about doing what they told you or they were going to do months ago. So literally you're just rephrasing what they told you they were interested in later, a few months out, asking them, hey, are you still interested in using your VA loan, for one? And what questions do you have? Because what I was thinking about when you said that is I think about any instance I've ever bought something big. There is not a scenario I did not have questions. So like, I'm thinking about like, well, what if a lender followed up with me like that? Like, hey, are you still thinking about this? Do you have questions? If I'm a buyer, I have questions. There's no way, even knowing what I know, I have questions for people in those situations. And so simple as it sounds, like that is a great framework for follow up. Like you're just making reference to what y'all talked about before at a different point in time, see if the interest is still there and see what questions they have. And if they're a buyer, they're going to have questions. If they're not a buyer, they're not going to have questions, or they just might be super unresponsive, but you keep following up anyway until they either buy something or you never hear from them again. But
one of the greatest things too that people don't realize, even though it's very obvious, is people talk. They talk, right? Maybe they told you, hey, well, I'm not interested, or follow up 5 months from now. And then they see a buddy of theirs buy a house and they use their VA loan, and somebody in your unit used their VA loan and they got paid to buy the house. And then that person goes, what do you mean you got paid to buy the house? And you haven't followed up with that person, or you do send that follow up and they had just got done having a conversation a day ago, a week ago. And they go, yeah, I do want to use my VA loan. A buddy of mine told me that I could do this. A buddy of mine just did this. Could you help me do this too? And that's what that follow up could lead. Real estate timing is the craziest phenomenon I think that is never talked about, right? It's the same thing where I could look at a listing that's been on market for 120 days. If I take my buyer to it, the day I take my buyer is the day they get an offer from somebody else. It happens all the time. And it's the same thing with follow-up. That day you send that text might have been the day or the day before where they just had a conversation with somebody about investing into real estate, about using their VA loan for the first time. And like Tyler just said, they're going to have questions. And when you have somebody that's asking you questions, you got them because you're educating them, because they're getting the answers that they crave, the answers that they need. You are providing, you are a resource for them. And I feel like that's another thing that's gotten lost in our industry of real estate is everyone forgets that even if you have your license for one day, you are looked at as a real estate professional. We do not have enough professionals in our industry, which is a crazy thing to think about. Because when it comes down to it, you need to be an expert in this. We are helping people facilitate the biggest transactions they will ever make in their entire lives. Unless one of our clients is someone who's going to go and incorporate a company and buy a company, right? Buying real estate is the single biggest thing that we can do. Most normal people would ever seek to do. And so if you're following up and you're giving them that information that they need to make the biggest purchase of their entire life, that's trust. That is a lot of trust, man. And that's the thing in real estate that scares a lot of people, especially you newer agents or people that are thinking about getting into it. Think about working with a buyer to help them buy the biggest thing they've ever bought in their entire life. And if you mess up, it could go very bad, right? You could change their whole perception of real estate investing. You could change their whole perception in the bad way of using their VA loan. And I get that a lot where I reach out to people, or I talk to people and they go, yeah, my real estate agent did this, this, and this, or did not do this. And I got screwed over and lost thousands of dollars. So I'm never buying another house ever again. And then I'm like, that's because they didn't do this, this, and this. This is what you can do in the future to make it to where you can invest into real estate. And then that's when they start asking questions again. Why would I buy a house? What is the benefit of me using my VA loan? Why would I build a rental portfolio? And then you start getting into these engaging conversations. And then as you start educating that person again, you start building up their trust. And I've done that with multiple people. And it's for some of these people, it's taken 2-3 years of constant trust building for them to go, okay, you know what? I'm ready. I think I'm comfortable with you. And I think we've talked about it enough where I'm ready to go. And that's real estate. It's a long game. It's a long game. I'm never playing for the closing next month. If somebody reaches out to you and goes, I want to buy a house and close on it next month, fantastic. But if someone goes, I want to reach out to you consistently over the next 2 to 3 years, fantastic. I look at them the same exact way I look at the person that told me they want to buy next month, right? So that's what it is. And with the follow-up, it's all about timing. And that timing is crazy. When there's times where I message people I haven't talked to in 5 months and they go, I was just talking about you, or I was just thinking about you yesterday. And that's exactly what I like to hear.
It happens all the time. It's crazy, but only if you're the one reaching out and making sure that conversation keeps happening, because it could as easily be like they thought about, but then you didn't reach out, and now, I mean, what are they doing then? They might,
and then somebody else reaches out to them.
Exactly.
Or they have a buddy that goes, well, my real estate agent's great. And that happens on the flip side. I'm the other real estate agent, like almost the other girl in a relationship. Like, you know, like they had someone who was talking to them, but didn't do a good job following up. And then I help my client buy a house. And then he goes, man, my guy Ian just got me paid to buy a house. You have to talk to him. And then all of a sudden they'll text me, hey, my buddy John is reaching out to you to buy his first house with his VA loan. I told him that you do great work. And then that other agent that had that client no longer has them. And I have them because they didn't follow up. If that person would have just followed up, John would have said, you know what? I already have an agent that I've been talking to that's giving me some great information, but I appreciate the recommendation, right? So it works both ways. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's such a fine line between being that person and not being that person. Speaking of timing, so one of the most common things I hear that comes up, usually from people that are just getting started, even people that already have their license, they're ready to go. But it even comes up from time to time with people assessing, even getting into our industry, is the timing of getting into our industry. Because I would say, I mean, your growth trajectory, I would say, has been in spite of the market and what's kind of happened on a broader scale, like, you know, the years that you've been doing it. So like, what would you say to someone who's like assessing things? They hear that, you know, sales are down the past 2 years, you know, units wise. They're wondering, like, is the opportunity even there? Like, is it less of an opportunity? Like, what is your perspective on it? Because, you know, to me, it's interesting, like, because your point of view is like, all you've seen is this market that's kind of been doing this while you've been doing this. So, you know, it's got to be an interesting perspective you've got. But what would you say to someone who's assessing that and they're trying to figure out if there's even enough opportunity for them at this point?
Well, overall, I would say in terms of opportunity, most people who get in this industry, again, don't have those things we talked about in the beginning. They don't have discipline. They don't have consistency. They use those outlying factors, those things that we cannot control, against themselves to say, well, the market's bad, so I can't do this. My thought process, no matter what the market is doing, there are people that can capitalize from that market. If we are in a seller's market, which for those of you guys who don't know, a seller's market is when interest rates are lower and actually not necessarily, buyer demand is higher. That's the overall key element. Buyer demand is higher, which means that sellers have an easier time selling. And so in a seller's market, when I first got in this industry, it's funny, it was a seller's market because rates were at 3.5%. That means buyer affordability was through the roof, right? And prices were still creeping up. But in 2021, if you bought in 2021, you bought here. But in 2025, you're buying here, right? That's why we buy real estate. Now think about the next 5 years. In 2025, we're here. 2030, we're going to be here. It's going to happen, even if we have a correction. And that's the thing, is there's a lot of people that are like, well, the real estate market's going to crash. If the market crashes or corrects and we drop by 20, 30%, there are people that are going to be waiting to capitalize. And there's going to be enough of those people to buy the dip, and it's going to shoot right back up. And then you're going to miss your opportunity again because you're going to listen to the TikTok videos. You're going to listen to your friends and family that are like, it's a bad time to buy right now. You shouldn't buy. It's the same thing with COVID. When the market crashed, the stock market crashed, that was the first time I ever bought a stock. My first stock I ever bought was IRM, which is a real estate trust, a REIT, right? REIT, however they pronounce it. But essentially, I bought that share of IRM at $26 a share. It's over $100 a share right now. And that's the first stock. I refuse to ever sell it. I will never sell it until the day I die because that's the first stock I ever bought. And it's incredible. But overall, there are people that can capitalize. And in a buyer's market, right, opposite of a seller's market, that means that buyers have the leverage. That means that buyers have the ability to do things that they were not able to do in a seller's market, like getting closing costs covered, like negotiating a home under appraised value, like getting all repairs done. I've negotiated homes for my clients where they've got new roofs, HVAC, and closing costs covered, and the house under appraised value, all paid for by the seller, where they got paid to buy that house. That could not be done in a seller's market. And you know who did that? A VA buyer. You know who capitalized on a buyer's market? VA buyers, first-time home buyers. Because if you look at from the real estate market, and this is how I talk to all of my clients, I talk to everyone I meet on the street, man. I talk to everyone the same exact way. And I go, what are the prices going to look like in 5 years? I mean, honestly, the responses I get are crazy. Some people are like, real estate's going to be down. And I'm like, interesting. Okay. And I ask them to explain. They can't. They're just like, well, the market's going to crash. And then that's when I go into everything I just talked about. Well, if it corrects, there are going to be people that are waiting. And then if we do go into a correction or a collapse, they're going to drop interest rates to increase consumer spending. And then that's when it's going to shoot buyer demand up and prices are going to go up again. So if you plan on buying a house, and I tell this to all my clients, if you plan on holding this asset for 5 years or more, that's where you can take advantage. In this market, you can get paid to buy a house with the VA loan in a lot of different markets around the country. It always depends on markets because there are some markets that are still sellers markets right now, which is crazy to think about. Because if interest rates come down more, what are those markets going to do? But overall, in a lot of markets, it's a buyer's market. And this is how I educate my clients and talk to them and go, this is what you can do. And if you plan on holding this asset for 5 to 7 years or more, you are going to win. It is that simple. And they believe me, they trust what I'm saying, because not only am I educating people on this stuff, I'm doing it myself. I'm buying houses myself. I'm buying real estate myself. I'm using my VA loan myself. They go, well, he's not just talking the talk, he's doing it. He's walking the walk. He's educating us about the VA loan, but then he's going to go out and use his VA loan himself. He's going to invest and buy rental properties himself. Because I have conviction in what I believe in. I could be wrong. And we could go into a 10-year depression where prices just go in a nosedive. We don't know what's going to happen. But overall, it's educating people about the process, the good and the bad stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's the difference between being a professional and being an amateur. And, you know, it's really not about like how much time you've been doing something. It's about how you move and how seriously you take your craft and really diving into it and caring to know the details of all these different things, which that's one of the differences I recognized with you early on is like, you know, it seemed that you took your craft a lot more seriously than most people getting into an industry who would say they're new to it would. I mean, from the get-go, I saw that you were moving like a professional and that you were like, you know, that's kind of the way that you were, you know, behaving. And, you know, at every point it has kind of shined through and, you know, those early wins that you got, I feel as well. So, man, this has been great. I guess any last words of wisdom or thoughts you want to leave the listeners with if they're active duty right now and wanting to successfully take a next step into things with real estate?
I mean, first of all, I'd say to reach out to us, right? That's number one, because we have insight in your different situation. Everyone's situation is different. Like I said, some of you guys might get approved for SkillBridge. Some of you guys might not. Some of you guys might have just joined the military and you're already looking for ways to maybe make extra money while you're in. And real estate can be that extra little thing that you can do. But getting started in this space is the biggest thing, I would say. Getting started into investing, right? With your TSP account, investing into stocks, a high yield savings account, investing into crypto, using the VA loan, right? That's the most important thing you guys could possibly do right now, is to use the VA loan yourself. But if you're going to get in this industry, it's important that you have to consider the fact that you could go 6 months without a single dollar hitting your bank account. You could. I could teach you everything that I did and give you everything I did, but you might be in a market where it's just impossible. But then again, I still think that's a cop-out. I think no matter what, you can get in this industry and go out and find people. because you could do what I did and educate yourself on everything there is to learn about it. And I'm still learning every single day. And that's what real estate truly is. It's the ability to learn. It's the opportunity to provide to others what you didn't know. I love teaching airmen that are 19, 20 years old about things that I should have done and things I would do if I was them right now to position them in a better spot in 5 years. Because even though I didn't have somebody like me educating myself about the VA loan and about how to invest, I would be in such a different position, right? Granted, I don't know if I would be here right now because, everything happens in God's plan. But at the same time, if I'm able to take what I've learned and apply that to people that are 19, 20 years old to educate themselves and to start building a financial, just building generational wealth that's going to pass on to themselves and to their kids and grandkids, it's just incredible with what we can do in this industry. But reach out to us if you want to learn more about just the opportunity that there is. But if you did stick around to this long at the end of the video, I mean, obviously analytics will tell us that. But realistically, I think you have a good shot. So the first thing would be to just reach out to us. Reach out to me anytime. Instagram, TikTok, text me. Don't care.
Great tip. If this resonated with you, if you're in the military right now and real estate's something that's seriously on your mind, on your horizon, you're trying to figure it out. I mean, you got Ian willing to take the time to connect. That's massive. I can only imagine as his business and life grows that accessibility, it might not always be the same. So take advantage of the opportunity you have right now to connect, to reach out, to get that insight and input in your personal situation, because we're willing to take the time and share that. And what's really cool too is, if anyone out there is listening right now, if you're an active agent, regardless of where you're at in the business, we have ways that we can collaborate with you and literally even to the point where we have client opportunities in different markets. In some markets that are really big in the military, we don't even have someone yet that covers the opportunity we have going that way. So you never know how we might be able to collaborate. But if you're of that mindset, and again, maybe you're just getting things off the ground and you're still trying to piece it all together to make it really your full-time thing. But especially if you're licensed already, regardless of where you're at, reach out, connect with us. If you want to get in the game, if you want to successfully take that next step, if you want to get into SkillBridge or assess if it's even an option for you, check the description below. We'll have some insight there, and we'll have a way to get on our calendar and to get connected with us. That way we can continue the conversation and just see where it leads to for you, and see how it kind of shapes up to your journey. I mean, for me personally, I'd love nothing more than to see someone who sees this video right now get to a point where they've successfully taken those steps to the point where we could have an interview with them right here on the channel, talking about what that journey was like their first year or 2 years in. And I firmly believe there's someone out there seeing this right now that we could really help craft an incredible story with, if you're really serious, committed, willing to follow those proven steps we lay out and take action accordingly. So yeah, we hope you got value out of this. If somehow, some way you're not already subscribed, I don't think I got to tell you anything at this point, but make sure you are. That way you don't miss anything we got coming in the future, because we're only going to keep building upon what we've done so far. And we'd love you to come along on that journey with us here. But Ian, thank you again, man, for taking all the time that you do and sharing the wisdom you've got to offer, man. It's been a blessing to be a part of the journey so far here, and I'm excited to see who we help along the way.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to reach out, guys. Peace.
All right, guys, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.